Hey there everyone, my name's Jose. I'm the lab manager at the Magic Department, and today we're going to go over the fundamentals of color theory, terminology with regards to color and its uses in art, and the different major characteristics of it. We're going to be going over a few of the basics, kind of the fundamentals of color theory in general art. A lot of this stuff applies to digital art as well as traditional. We'll be going over a lot of the terms and phrases that are used so that you are more prepared for referring to art, describing it, and just having a better tool set. Because I personally believe that color theory is the fundamentals of art itself. It really is kind of the driving force, no matter how you're working, whether it's in grayscale or in a wide assortment of colors, the full range. It's important to know color theory. With that, I guess I'll kind of start going over some of the more basic stuff, and then from there, we'll go off to the more, I guess, technical. So starting off, the first kind of understanding you should know about art and color theory is the color wheel. Everyone kind of already works with it. You already have a fundamental understanding of it, grade school and primary school. But breaking it down and explaining it is kind of the core of what it means to be in art, right? So all these colors, it's not just arranged in this way because it looks nice. A lot of it is actually technical in how the eye perceives light and values in reality. So to start off with, when people refer to primary colors in art, they are referring to the three main colors: red, yellow, and blue. Now, these colors are not the way that all art is displayed, because these are referring to pigment, right? So the way that something is stained in the physical world and how light bounces off of it. These are the three main colors, the way that humans perceive it, and the way that color blends and meshes is based off of how these three kind of interact with each other, at least to us, right? These are the three most distinct. Now, this is different from how screens work. Screens work with red, green, blue. The reason why that is the case is because the way that pixels are set up, they display a combination of these three colors to make a light bounce. This is not the same as pigment. This is just how screens kind of display information. That's just a technical thing that should be mentioned so that there's no confusion throughout the rest of this video. So with these three, right, you can tell that they're kind of like at an angle from each other, right? They are all kind of facing away from each other in this very triangular way. And this carries throughout the rest of the color sets. So in this case, if these are the primary, then we have the secondary, which are in the opposite end of the opposite corners, right? They're in the exact opposite. So in this case, it's not red, yellow, and blue. It's purple, orange, and green. And you can see that on the color wheel, they do the same thing. The purple at the top, the orange on the left here, in between these other two oranges, and this distinct green. In the same case, they are the middle of the primary colors. They stand exactly in between the primaries. Now, with that, we have our last colors to mention, and these are the tertiaries. And these are kind of getting to the minutia of colors, right? These are the more, I guess, obscure colors because they are in between the in-betweens, right? They're the more nuanced versions of things. They're not just combining two colors like we have with the primary and secondary. They're combining combinations, right? So going back, right, with a primary, the way you get this orange, for example, you'd get it by combining red and yellow. Same thing goes with if you want to get this purple right in between red and blue. That's how it works. You combine red and blue to get this purple. And same thing with the yellow and blue to get this green. That's how you get secondaries. Now, if you want to get tertiaries, what you do is you combine the combinations. So in this case, you combine, and if you look at the color wheel, for example, you see this orange right here on the left. You have this orange that's slightly darker and this orange that's slightly lighter. The way you get that is by taking this secondary color and combining it with this yellow. If you want to get a lighter yellow, this lighter kind of almost orange, almost yellow. But then if you want to do the opposite, if you want a slightly darker red, some would say a blood orange, right? Then you would combine this orange and this red. That is how you get tertiaries. You'll notice that there are color combinations that don't just go like this. We don't just revolve our entire color palettes based off of these three or these six. So here we have the next major lesson, which is complementary colors. Now, complementary colors are my favorite aspect about color theory because they go into some really interesting combinations of colors. Basically, it's very straightforward. You look at the color wheel, and whatever's on the other end of the spectrum complements values in color theory, right? So they complement each other perfectly. And this is something that once you see it, you'll never stop seeing it. Basically, yeah, in this case, this yellow is an opposite to this blue, right? It's just how these colors work. It's just, you know, the balance of these things. And same thing with this red and this green, right? Usually that reminds you of Christmas, that reminds you of some superheroes maybe. It's just kind of like this constant thing. And adjacent to that, we have analogous colors. And analogous colors are colors that are similar to other colors that are kind of next to each other. Very similar to how tertiary colors are in between other colors. So here in this case, for example, this purple, the two analogous colors are this lighter violet and this darker kind of indigo, right? These are analogous to this color. They are in the same family, some would say. And with that, we kind of have an understanding of the fundamentals of color theory. Now, the next step I would take is jumping into some real-world examples of these two, because I feel like this would be easier shown than explained. With that, I'm going to hide this layer and open this one to show you some very, very popular examples of basic color theory, right? So in this case, I mentioned before that red and green was superheroes. That is because if you actually think about it, most of Spider-Man's rogues gallery is entirely comprised of characters who are green, and it's because even though really the major color in his suit technically isn't red, it's his most distinct feature. When you think of his mask, his face, his hands, you know, his extremities, they're almost always red. And even this blue that they selected is this like almost violet. Like you could argue it's pink to someone. That's how much they really wanted to emphasize how distinct these two are, right? Spider-Man, his rivals, whether it's the Green Goblin, the Lizard, Sandman with his green shirt, or Doc Ock with his green jumpsuit, the Vulture even, they're always green. And it's because that was the quickest way you as an audience could understand they're at odds with each other in a subconscious psychological way. And if you even look at his wings, you can even see some analogous colors with how they designed the Vulture, because he's even got like these bright green wings next to his main green suit, and even this yellow. Maybe that was done on purpose. So jumping over here, again, very iconic character design. Sonic's complementary color, being a blue hedgehog, is Tails, his yellow, his distinct orange-yellow kind of look. They stand out with each other, and they both work with their bright red shoes. This is basic color theory right here, just kind of setting up a character design and his complement, his buddy, his pal. And that even extends to logos and graphic design. In this case, the Capcom logo, this color combination, it's striking, it's iconic, it's strong, and holds your attention, and it sticks in your mind, because that is what color does. Color isn't just to make something look pretty. There's a psychology to it. There's a way that you think, the way that you plan things out. And the next step, in same vein as color theory, I'm going to go into analogous colors with superheroes. So you can see here, that the green and purple is a very strong combination of analogous colors, because they show this weird kind of funky look, this design. They're not completely, the opposite, but they're adjacent to each other, and they give each other that strong kind of like, apparentness. But here you have this more complementary look with this purple and this yellow, this gold, right? It works together. And same thing with this magenta with this blue, right? Very funky, very weird, but it strikes in your mind. You remember it, you don't forget it, and it leaves an impression on you as an audience member. Alright, so now that we got that out of the way, I'm going to finally jump into the last major portion of color theory and the psychology of colors and terminology, which are hue, value, and saturation. Now, I think this chart, you can find any chart like this online, but to kind of go through with it for you guys, I would kind of go with this explanation, which is very kind of straightforward, which is hue is color, right? It is just the color that you're talking about. Whenever you mention hue, it's really just referring to the actual color that it is, right? No, not about intensity, brightness, it's just the hue. Value is the lightness or darkness of a color, right? If you're referring to if you want a color to be brighter, literally brighter, right, or lighter, closer to white, so, that then you want to go with a higher value. But a lower value would be a dark, muddy version of that color, right? Whether it's a deep red, deep blue, what have you. And lastly, saturation is the intensity of that color at all, right? It's not about turning it off completely, not about bringing it to darkness, but it's about softening it until it's this very weak version of itself, right? Using these terms, using these different characteristics, you can create a combination of colors that really does stick in the mind of your audience, right? It really is how you communicate to the audience different concepts, different ideas, whether it's tone, whether it's atmosphere, characteristics, whatever you want to go with. The point of these terms is so that you can understand the importance of conversation, of dialogue. With that, I think that this is just the first step. These are definitely like the fundamentals of color theory. This is a bit of a crash course, but I do hope that with this, you kind of start off your journey into formal understanding of color theory, color design, and a future in your artwork. With that, I want to thank you again for tuning in. Thank you for joining me on this video explanation on color theory. My name is Jose. Please like and subscribe and follow for more content with Photoshop or any other software. Take care. Thank you.